Welcome to the Flynn Brothers podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jimmy. Today's big idea: the Flynn Brothers investigate airplanes.
We talk about the difficulties of commercial air travel and the science behind how planes fly.
Later, I deliver a brief history of airplanes as I pepper my brother with aviation trivia questions. It's all coming up. But first, here's the Solons.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, once or twice here on the podcast, we have done episodes based on fan suggestions, right? We will sometimes craft a bespoke episode, if you were, the way you would craft a knit sweater, a homemade sweater, something like that.
Tailored to those who contact our business email.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And grateful we are to all of them. But we were at a wedding recently, and we had met the groom's dad for the first time, a man we had heard tale about, and we had a wonderful chat with him during the welcome dinner the night before the wedding, and he said he was a big fan of the Flynn Brothers podcast. He loved our two-part James Bond episode especially, and was just a really, really great guy. We had a nice chat with this man, didn't we?
Phenomenal.
Older gentleman, impolite to say their age, but again, the father of the groom. And he mentioned to us that he would like to hear us do an episode about airplanes. And I thought, that's very interesting. I have lots of thoughts on airline travel and planes in general. And so we thought we would craft this sort of bespoke episode for him and all of our wonderful listeners. And it was very interesting. The following day after we had met this lovely gentleman, he was giving a speech at the wedding reception. And again, we had just met this gentleman once the night before. And as he's giving the speech and standing next to the groom, and he's the center of the wedding, big wedding, probably over 120 people. He is saying, we want to thank everyone. It was up in Mendocino, California, northern California. He said, we want to thank everyone. It's hard to get here, a lot of winding roads. So we'd like to thank everyone who came to the wedding, whether it's from the Bay Area, San Francisco, whether it's from Canada, the groom had spent some time in Canada, or from down in Los Angeles. And a special shout out to the Flynn brothers. And all eyes, peer at us. Yeah. And I was so overcome. I had got a couple of glasses of wine. I was at a loss for words. I kind of sheepishly covered my face, sort of jokingly. You handled it a little better than me.
Yeah, I was purely gobsmacked. I probably did the opposite of you, where my hands went wide, as did my eyes, and I shouted out that the check was in the mail. That's how we paid him for his sponsorship.
We're funny guys at a wedding.
We were riffing. He wanted to riff when we were happy to riff with him. A great riffer.
And we were lucky. We were at a table with Will Slade, and we're like, Will, lift your head off the table. They made a joke about us. No. He was well behaved, very well behaved. But anyway, we were honored, we were dumbfounded, and here we are. We're doing this episode about airplanes, and I thought it was a perfect episode to put under our FBI banner. The FBI has done some incredible things over the years. They killed John Dillinger. They captured the Unabomber, and now they're investigating airplanes. I guess technically it's different FBIs, technically, but for the joke, we had to kind of blur the line there.
Yeah.
But of course, when I speak of FBI, everyone knows I'm talking about what, buddy?
Flynn Brothers investigations.
How is it? Have we nailed down an office space, coffee machine? Where are we in terms of our ragamuffin organization?
Yeah, fluorescently lit, the sound tiles in the ceilings.
All right, we're getting there.
Formica everywhere.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Let's talk about planes.
Okay.
You know me.
I do.
And I do not like planes.
Yeah, no, you don't really care for them. I like them. They're a miracle of travel, but
I know you like them, but I have many myriad reasons why I do not like planes. Number one, I wrote a ton of these down, so we're going to fly through them. Okay. Number one, flying is gross. The people on the planes are gross. The planes are not cleaned enough. There's a lot of coughing, sneezing. There was one time I was in a middle seat, and I was between two rather obese people who had brought on board deli sandwiches. And in the middle of this hot, cramped flight, they both kind of, look at each other, give a nod, and they unwrap these foot-long monster deli sandwiches, these subs, and they just start chowing into it. And it's raw onion, and it's mayo, and it's tomato, and just that is the kind of person you can be sandwiched between on a plane. And you'll never see him again, and they won't apologize. And it doesn't matter that you're in the middle seat. They're going to take the armrests from you. They're going to burp. They're going to cough in your direction. This is just, again, living in a society. These are the type of people you're going to be next to on an airplane. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah. It's an unpleasant feature that you have to come so intimately in contact with a mixed bag sample of the public.
I still wear masks on airplanes. If there's 100 people on an airplane, I am usually one of like 6 people wearing a mask. But to be honest, I'm not as concerned about disease spreading as I am just the smell. Planes stink. The people stink. I hate to sound so misanthropic, but it's a lot of people who haven't showered and got up early. And, it's not people at their best. You're not seeing people all dolled up, right? These are people just kind of trying to get from A to B. There is absolutely zero chance I will ever use the bathroom on a flight that is shorter than, say, 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours. There is absolutely zero chance. The bathrooms are small, they're cramped, they're absolutely disgusting. I make sure to go tinky or stinky before I get on the plane, and that ends up not being really a problem. But everything on the plane, the seats, the tray tables, the armrests, it's all grimy. It just is like, maybe it's wiped down with like those Clorox wipes, but it's not deeply cleaned. It's like surface level cleaned. You know what I mean?
Right, where the grime remains, all the oils from forearms and stuff. Yeah.
And I guess what else I hate about planes, and it kind of goes with the fact that they're gross, they're very dehumanizing. When you're funneled into the TSA line, when you're boarding, when you're unloading the plane, you feel like cattle. You feel like just absolute animals, right? And my misanthropic side comes out, and you'll even hear me at airports when there's just crowds of people. They're bumping into me, they're cutting their toenails, they're coughing without covering. I'll literally say, "Oh, look at these animals," and you'll say, "Jim, please have faith in your fellow human." And I'm like, "Nah, not these. These aren't humans. They're animals." And you try to rein me in a little bit, but it's still, it's just like we're fighting over armrests. We're using these small bathrooms. I don't know. It just I feel like as a person, I'm not fully myself. You are just a cog, right? Your individuality is completely stripped away when you are participating in commercial air travel.
Well, you're moving the meat sack which holds your consciousness from one place to another. Right. It's like, I wish I could just send my mind wherever it is that I need to go, but this meat sack is what hosts the server.
I live in California, and I need to be in, my meat sack needs to be in New Jersey by tonight, so I gotta do what I gotta do. Yeah. Another reason I don't like planes, they're scary. Here's what I wrote down about why planes are scary. We're doing what birds do, and we ain't birds. That's scary, right? We're not supposed to be up there.
Well, we're not doing what birds do.
Well, they glide. We glide a little bit, right?
We're not doing the gliding.
Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's humans trying to. It's Icarus, thy wings are of wax. Another thing I wrote down, I don't like turbulence. That's scary when you're up there and they're like, "No, folks, we're experiencing a little drop in pressure, blah blah blah." And it's just like, "Hey, this is terrifying. I see lightning. I hear rain.
I just dropped 50 feet."
it's scary, right? Like everyone's always like, "Heh, like everyone's on edge with turbulence, right? Even if we know it's gonna be fine, it's still so scary. The biggest thing though to me is like, especially as a kid when I was very, very young, we just trust airplanes. We just get on them. We don't really know how they work. Like, do you remember the first time you ever got on an airplane? I believe we were on the same airplane. Do you remember why and where we were going, where the flight was to?
A wedding in San Diego.
Yes, we got on a plane, flew to San Diego. We were probably
7 and 9.
Yeah, 7 and 9, 8 and 10, something like that. And I remember it was fine, but I don't really remember Dad, Mom, anyone explaining to me sort of. It was cool. It was like you heard kids at school had gone on planes and all this stuff. We were probably, the latter half of kids to go on an airplane for our age group. But yeah, I don't remember it being explained to me. And you're too young to perhaps understand the physics of it and everything. But you are just supposed to, as a kid, get on this thing that is objectively pretty terrifying to be that high in the air, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Yes, objectively, yes. It is scary to be 30,000 feet in the air. I'm with you. Yes.
The other thing that bothers me about planes is the frequency, or should I say infrequency. I can go like a year or even 2 years without ever getting on an airplane, and then all of a sudden I'm on 5 flights in 2 days. You know what I mean? Like they don't take the shoes off at TSA, but it's like you're going through the TSA circus. You're fighting for the armrests. You're looking at your tickets. You're printing your tickets. You're scanning your tickets. Like this whole circus, and it's like I feel like how often I fly, it's like it's enough to where I know the process, but it's not often enough to get used to it. And so if you go on like 5 flights in a weekend or whatever, and there's layovers and stuff, by that end one, you're kind of like over it, and it's kind of old hat. But I don't know, for me, if I take a few months off or a year off and I get on that first plane, I'm a little edgy. You know what I mean? Are you like that, or it doesn't bother you?
I would say I have given myself over to airline travel. When I have to do it, I just put myself into the hands of the major corporations that cover this. I feel like they've got the safety concerns pretty well in hand because it'd be terrible for their bottom line. The one point that drives me nuts on an airplane is when it lands and you're stationary on the tarmac. In that moment, I really just realized I have been in a 4x3x6 rectangular prism for 8 hours, and I must get out of it, and you can't. Like that is where.
Well, that's the most annoying thing about any airplane is when it lands. Everyone stands up, even though it's like they're in the back rows, and it's you got to wait for everyone and stuff. And I think so many people are just overcome with, I gotta get up. It like drives them crazy. And it's like, guys, if you just sit still for another 10 minutes, we're all going to get off this in an orderly fashion. But it's like by people standing up, you're preventing people from getting, suitcases, luggage that might be further back on the plane. You're cutting in front of people, and it just creates more chaos. That is, I should have said, that is absolutely one of the top things that annoys me the most about air travel. But anyway, the reason we're talking about this, other than a gentleman named Randy told us to do an episode about airplanes, is that I'm hoping that by talking through some of these things, doing a little of this research, that maybe I can start to understand airplanes a little better, accept air travel like you have. In these FBI episodes, we take things we know about but are not maybe intimately familiar with, don't know everything about it, whether it's anything from the Pillsbury Doughboy to cheese, and it just the goal is just enlightenment, greater understanding. So that's what I'm aiming for here.
Enlightenment, that's there's only one guy who's ever gotten that, they say.
Yeah, Siddhartha Gautama.
Yeah.
A.k.a. Buddha. Kind of cool. I knew his real name.
That was really good. Yeah, I don't know that we can offer that to the audience, but...
Hey, well, keep listening and find out. First thing I wanted to research and figure out, because I've never really known how airplanes fly.
Wow.
And I went to the finest source I could possibly imagine, an article on the NASA website titled "The Dynamics of Flight." I thought that seemed pretty scholarly and trustworthy.
I like both the word dynamics and flight.
Good for you, buddy.
It's awesome.
I should have been a damn scientist.
I honestly, this feels like a segment that I would do.
You
on
think
the
so?
podcast, and
Well,
here you are doing it,
buddy. Well,
I love it. Go for it.
After all these years, I can still surprise you. Before I get into the research, how do you think planes fly?
This is not a very scientific explanation, but the way that I understand it is there is just more pressure going underneath the wing, air pressure going underneath the wing than there is air pressure on top of the wing, and so that lifts the plane.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Next segment. No, that actually was very good. I'll tell you what, though, before we get to that, that was kind of the main thing I was building to. But there are 4 forces that NASA says are kind of combining to create flight for airplanes. The first force is lift, which brings the plane up, obviously. Weight, which is pressuring it to go down. Drag, which is making it go backward. And then thrust, which is making it go forward. So we are most concerned with thrust and lift. But listen to all those lift, weight, drag, thrust. I mean, these are also the secrets to good lovemaking. Yeah, I'm yanking at my collar like Rodney Dangerfield. All right, so lift and thrust are what get it to fly. Right. Essentially, we've all seen commercial airlines have those engines underneath the wings, right? So they suck in air, the engines, they burn fuel, shoot that hot air out the back, and that is what thrusts it forward. And then the lift, you were correct. The lift is there is more pressure underneath the wings than above the wings. And because there's more pressure underneath the wings, that is what gets it to lift up into the sky, which is very, very fascinating. Yeah. You totally nailed that.
No, I think every now and again when I am just, walking around or whatever, and you just see a plane go by, and do you ever just have a moment where you're just like, man, I just kind of can't believe.
Nuts. And at any given time globally, there's thousands of planes in the air. It's absolutely unbelievable. If you know where we are, we hike up in Griffith Park, we'll look out and you can just see all the planes go and land at LAX and Burbank. And it's really incredible just to see them like passing over the sky like birds, It's unbelievable. As I said, we're flying in the air like birds. I told you I'd pepper you with some trivia questions. How much do you think commercial airlines pay per gallon for jet fuel? How much do you think jet fuel costs per gallon?
$30?
$3.20 a gallon is about the average. It's way cheaper than you'd think.
That is much cheaper.
Unbelievable.
I'd like to get some jet fuel in my car. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? A lot damn cheaper. I'd go a lot damn faster, too. Another one for you. How many gallons of fuel can a commercial airline carry?
1,000.
Airplane, I guess I should say.
Sure.
It's between 5,000 and 60,000 for larger planes.
Wow.
They won't always carry at full capacity. It weighs a lot, gallons of jet fuel. So they try not to always have it totally full. But then again, you don't want to exactly run out of gas up there, do you?
Nope.
Nowhere to stop. Not exactly a Shell gas station up there.
No, there's not.
The point of the wings, though, which I find really fascinating, the shape of them is so important. And they don't necessarily look very sturdy, right? But yet the perfect shape of them is what, again, allows the heightened pressure to be underneath them and lift them up. Of course, once that plane's in the air, we know that computers and pilots and factors such as this also help fly the planes. It's not just up there and, it's having snacks from stewardesses. There's a couple guys up at the front of the plane. Or ladies, surely you know this, don't you?
Yeah.
It is funny, though, like
the planes are flown by pilots?
yeah. I actually discovered that in my research. I will say, the pressure underneath the wings versus above, it does make me feel a little bit better. I'm not totally sold on just the argument where it's like the shape of the wings is what does it. Like that to me is like, are we sure about that? Like that makes me a little nervous, but I'm okay with the pressure under the wings versus above the wings.
Yeah.
You smug prick laughing at me.
No, I think it's just funny that you're you're just still not
I'm
really sold.
I'm rather vulnerable sharing my fears of flight, and you're kind of you're sitting over there like a smug prick.
You sound like a caveman. How does it fly?
All right, I'm gonna pepper you with some more trivia, then we'll see who's laughing. How fast is cruising altitude for an airplane in miles per hour?
500?
That is correct. 500 to 600 miles per hour. That was unbelievable, buddy. Unbelievable. Had you heard that statistic before?
No, I sometimes when I'm on an airplane, I go to the little screen where it shows you where you are on the earth, and it'll usually tell you how fast you're going and how high up you are, and I always think that's like crazy.
How high up are you usually in an airplane? That's my next trivia question.
30,000 feet?
Yeah, 30 to 40. That's basically about it. We're very well done, buddy. A couple of them you missed, 2 of them you got. We're well on our way.
You spend several hours on an airplane, you get a little bit more familiar with it.
Absolutely.
Unless you're quaking in fear and, smelling onions from a deli sandwich.
2 of them, one for each nostril. Huh? All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Folks, we're at our cruising altitude, and we're going to continue with this podcast. My next segment involves airplane hygiene. As you know, one of my phobias of airline travel involves how unclean they are, and I found some rather sobering things, but hopefully by reckoning with it, I can learn to like airplanes a little bit more. Trivia question for you. What has research found to be the dirtiest part of an airplane? I'll give you a hint. It's on the inside.
Armrest.
Tray tables.
Oh.
They are often dirtier than the flush mechanism in the airplane bathroom.
Ooh.
Why are they so dirty, I wonder? All the hands touching them, I guess.
Folded up and people, they don't wash them. Because you
Maybe.
fold up your tray tables as you go down, and then
Folks, go ahead and fold up those tray tables. We're never going to wipe them, but go ahead and fold them up, please. We're landing. Fold up those filthy tables. You wouldn't want to hit your head on it. They're disgusting. You'll get the flu by touching it.
You've got all sorts of smears of foods and drinks and pretzel packs and whatever.
People coughing on it. They're not getting. These cleaning crews aren't going to go through a plane and wipe a tray table.
Every single one. Yeah,
Hundreds,
no chance. No chance.
The air, which I'm always nervous of on an airplane, is actually very good quality. It's HEPA filtered. It's cleaner than most offices, stores, etc. You can feel it constantly blowing. It's why if I've farted on an airplane, nobody ever knows, just because the air is like you just can't hear anything. It's just like an absolute whirlwind.
Well, I have no noise canceling headphones that also you can allow them to let in ambient noise. So if you want to hear what's going on around you, when I have the noise canceling headphones on and I'm listening to something for 3 hours or whatever, and then you take them off, you're like, Jesus, this plane is loud.
What's it sound like?
It is just like you're in a vortex.
It's pretty wild. The air is also very dry because it is constantly being blown and filtered. It has, on an airplane, the air has less than 20% humidity, which is akin to a desert, if not drier than a desert. That's why when you're on you land and you're like, my throat is so dry, need ginger ale. And yet they serve you crackers, peanuts. I mean, that's just going to wick all the moisture out of your gums, won't it?
Based on, it seems like that would be a good thing for you. You don't want any excess moisture.
Yeah, true. It says, according to my research, you're most likely to not get sick necessarily from the air on the airplane or the surfaces on the airplane, but in coming to contact with the animals, people on the airplane. Oh, sorry about that.
I always felt like it's the airport where you get sick.
You go to a hospital to get sick. Yeah. The plane's fine. The airport's where you're going to get sick. Yeah.
I don't know
That's
why.
True. God, those places are disgusting.
I feel like airports are worse. Yeah,
they're just so disgusting. I mean, every surface at an airport. I just am. I'm not a big sanitizer guy. My hands get dried up, but I am a big hand washer. I wash hot water, aggressive, many times, lotion afterward because I have fingertip dermatitis.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I touch anything, I just as soon as I get off an airplane, I have to go to the bathroom, wash. It's just I don't know. It's so gross on there. It's just I don't know. It's like if you go to someone's house and they got a lot of kids and just the couches are gross or they have lots of pets and stuff and you're just like, I just kind of don't want to touch anything. And they're like, do you want water from our fridge? And their fridge stinks. And you're like, I'm good, even though you're really thirsty. It's just like, that's what a plane's like. It's like being at your gross friend's house, you know? All right, buddy, enough dancing around. Let's get to the brief history of airplanes. I probably could have done a better pun than enough dancing around. What's an airplane one? I could have...
Enough circling the tarmac.
There you go. Enough layovers. Let's get to our destination here. The brief history of airplanes. My first line in this, I did not do any research for this one, but you tell me if this one's true. Since basically the beginning of human thought, man has wanted to fly amongst the birds in the sky. True or false? Is that true? That's true, isn't
There's
it?
a heavy fixation on birds in this episode.
Isn't that why we fly planes? Don't we want to be
Whoa.
the whole reason we fly is man looked up, saw caw bird. And we're like, we want that.
Right.
I want to fly through the air like a bird. That is why we have airplanes. It's not to do a business trip to Singapore. It is to be amongst the birds. And that is why we've lost sight of that. I mean, these people soullessly traveling on planes for business, their frequent flyer card, they're so jaded to the experience. You're a bird. You're a professional bird. Business flyer, you're a bird. I mean, if you've racked up 1 million frequent flyer miles, you have zero wonderment in your soul about your soaring through the air like a bird. True or false? True. There you go.
True. We've lost sight of soaring among the birds.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'll get into the hard research now. That was more sort of pontificating.
Yeah.
Before we got to airplanes, there were a lot of wings and gliders. As Woody once said about Buzz, that ain't flying, that's falling with style. For hundreds of years, we were not flying. We were falling with style. We basically had Batman's wingsuit was kind of what we were operating with. In the 15th century, our good pal and fellow Italian Leonardo da Vinci draws the specs for conceptualizes the ornithopter, which is again like a glider. He was inspired by bats. You would flap the wings to fly it. Spoiler alert, didn't really work out.
Yeah.
Even Batman's like, that's stupid. You don't know flapping. It's not cool looking. The flapping's not cool. Let's get to the late 1800s. We're going to have ourselves a breakthrough. German engineer Otto Lilienthal. I think that is how you say. How would you pronounce that? Lilienthal.
Yeah.
Lilienthal. I don't know. It doesn't sound very German. Otto certainly does. He made the first successful glider and made successful glider flights. In addition to that, made important discoveries regarding aerodynamics. Can you guess which famous pair of brothers he influenced?
The Wright
brothers, that's correct. Which brings us to our next trivia question. What are the Wright brothers' first names?
Orville and Wilbur.
Good. Names that still exist. names that totally still exist. They're not pig names at all or popcorn tycoons.
I honestly feel like that's why those names are out. Because Orville, your popcorn boy, and Wilbur, your pig boy.
Big boy. Yeah. You're a big popcorn pig.
Yeah.
Our good friend Otto Lilienthal sadly died at the age of 48 when he was doing a glider flight and his glider stalled and he fell nearly 50 feet to his death. Brutal way to die. But it's sort of like how the crocodile hunter died via an animal. It's like, this guy, this was what you did for a living. It was a dangerous line of work.
Yep.
Little myth for you. Allegedly, his last words were, here's me speaking German, Opfer müssen gebracht werden, which translates to, sacrifices must be made.
No way. I think his last words were,
yeah. 9. There's a little crass making fun of this hero of air travel.
Dead for 200 years.
Yeah. You know what? We give people permission to make fun of us well before 200 years after our death. Do it while we're still alive and we can enjoy it. The Wright brothers, as you mentioned, Wilbur and Orville, they pick up where Otto left off. They are responsible for the first controlled, sustained, engine-powered, heavier-than-air aircraft. And it was done with the Wright Flyer, the name of their plane, on December 17th, 1903, in a location 4 miles south of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, at what is now known as Kill Devil Hills. Cool name.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's what we did when we started flying among the birds. We killed the devil.
Killed the devil. That's interesting. Heavier than air aircraft. We're essentially talking about things that are not balloons, basically. That's what we mean by heavier than air aircraft. The flight lasted 12 seconds and 120 feet. I wrote in my notes, basically how a chicken flies.
Yeah.
For about 12 seconds and 120 feet. That fair?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. It is, that must have just been, can you imagine?
I would guess once they were airborne and went at least 20 of those feet, they were like, oh my God, oh geez, oh no way. Like it was just like, Wilbur. He's down. He's down there. Oh, no. That's Charlotte's Web. He's not a pig, and Orville's not the popcorn tycoon. I'm sorry, Wright brothers.
All right, back
The reason they were such good aeronautical engineers, I think we can call them, they had good machine knowledge. We researched them once for a doomed biopic starring ourselves as Wilbur and Orville. But they had good machine knowledge. Do you know what they worked in before they became aeronautical engineers?
They were bicycle men.
That's right. They also worked with printing presses and motors. This was a time in our country, a time of tinkering.
Yeah.
These were tinkerers, and tinkerers, birth good inventors.
They knew their way around spinning gears.
They had little shooters of oil and gears, and yes, and they were grease monkeys. I mean, that was they're good old fashioned grease monkeys. The pilot. Do you know how the pilot was situated in that first plane? How he was kind of positioned?
He's like, I would imagine, sort of seated, like in those seated bicycles.
Not quite, laying down on their stomach, for less air resistance. Air resistance. The engine of the airplane had 12 horsepower, which is equivalent to a lawnmower.
Wow.
Pretty incredible.
That's incredible. That is really incredible.
They're awesome. They are, I'm going to go ahead and say it, the Wright brothers are a more impressive pair of brothers than us.
Yes.
I will stake my claim. Some of our listeners may disagree, but I must admit, all humility, I must admit it.
So far.
Following the Wright brothers, aviators and aerodynamic engineers continue progressing the progress of airplanes. They set distance and flight time records. Only a dozen years later, what war comes along?
The First World War.
First World War, yes. They did not even call it that. They just called it the war, or the Great War. They didn't know there'd be a sequel or anything. It's like how we call Star Wars. We didn't know it'd be Episode 4. It's just A New Hope, right?
They didn't know the budgets would increase, special effects
would get better. We didn't know all this
Story
stuff.
would get blown out, new characters.
But it's so unbelievable that, these planes that initially were made of wood and wire and fabric. A dozen years later, these shit boxes are doing dogfights with machine guns in World War I. And there were no flight schools. There was no way to learn to be a pilot. You just had to be batshit crazy enough to get into one of these things with a machine gun. The machine gun wasn't even mounted to the control system. It would be up on a panel, so you'd be flying with one hand. Before they even had the mounted machine guns, they would just use pistols, do drive-bys and throw coins, and it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
That is incredible.
It was unbelievable. It was totally, if you're comparing World War I to a movie, it's guerrilla style independent filmmaking, just whatever works. We did. Can you believe the actor did this for the movie?
He threw a handful of pennies and he brought down another plane.
And just this was the First World War. It's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, these things were essentially glorified e-bikes in the air, and they're doing drive-bys with them. There was no windshield on these planes in World War I. They had goggles, but it's again, if it's raining, if it's inclement weather, you are feeling all of that on your face. I must say,
it must be cold up there too.
Oh, absolutely, especially where they were fighting in France, Belgium. It was freezing and rainy all the time. It's funny. I almost feel I'm very nervous of large airplane commercial air travel. I gotta say, if I was up there with an experienced pilot, maybe a Harrison Ford, and I'm in one of his little propeller planes, I'm up there with him on his lap or riding behind him. I don't have to be on his lap. I would, or next to him. I don't know how big some are, front and back.
I think you riding on Harrison Ford's lap would make the plane infinitely more dangerous. All right, continue.
Anyway, I'm a big load. It'd be hard.
He's an old man.
It'd be hard for him to get his arms around me. Admittedly, he's probably shooting his TV show, Shrinking. Right? He's probably busy doing that anyway. Mm-hmm. But regardless,
take you up on his lap.
yeah, he's a busy man. I do feel like if I wasn't too high off the ground and I had the wind on my face in one of those old propeller planes, it would be a little scary. I feel better with that than a giant jumbo jet 30,000 feet in the air.
I couldn't disagree more. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Not that high off the ground.
There's something where it's like, if we crash, maybe I'll be okay.
No.
I don't know. I think maybe if I was in one of those propeller planes, me, Harrison Ford, Santa Ana Mountains, maybe I'd be okay.
Okay. Harrison Ford is always crashing his airplane.
That's true. He has crashed several times, hasn't he?
B, the plane, there's so many more safety features of these massive jumbo jets. You just said it. These are rinky dink.
They're shit boxes.
Yeah, they're soapbox derby
things that are
cardboard
flying through the air like birds. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's something where I don't know.
You're seduced by the romance of it.
Seduced by it, when I proposed to my fiance, before I did it, we were looking out at this vineyard, and there was a small airport, and there were little propeller planes taking off. Maybe I got some sort of sentimental connection to propeller planes. I don't know.
Would you go up in a hot air balloon?
Scary.
See, that's the exact same thing. Except now they're going fast.
You know what I think it is? The component here that matters. Harrison Ford. I think that is Travolta. I'd go with Travolta too. I think if I went with a famous old white celebrity, white man, old leading man, I'd be okay. I don't know.
It's like, well, if we're going down, he's not going to let it go down. He's Harrison Ford. This isn't the way.
Harrison Ford is not dying in a plane crash with me on his lap. He's going to figure out a way to save us. Anyway, we got to keep going, buddy. We can't keep getting lost on these tangents. Anyway, after World War I, we finally get commercial aviation. Why am I saying finally? Yeah. Oh, man, it took them 20 damn years to fly people. God, it took forever. Who flew the Spirit of St. Louis across the Atlantic in 1927?
Charles Lindbergh.
That's correct. And he flew from what city to what city?
New York to London.
I'll give you another guess on London. Another major city in Europe.
Paris.
There you go. New York to Paris. Very good. Jet engines are the next big invention. They come along in the 30s, and baby, we've been flying high ever since.
So jet engines are, I guess, just more powerful.
Correct. Use jet fuel to burn engines, can support larger aircrafts. We've since then just have been getting bigger, better, faster planes, and I know they've grounded they do less of the 747s now. They do more of the 737s and stuff like that. But there are I think when I flew to Europe, they still have these giant I think they call them Airbuses and just giant planes. Yeah. Which oddly I feel safer on those. I'm somewhere I'm not in the middle of the spectrum. I'm either propeller plane Harrison Ford or jumbo jet Airbus Lufthansa flying over the freezing cold Atlantic Ocean. What is with me? I don't know. I'm an interesting guy.
A doctor could really have a field day digging through that skull of yours.
Let's discuss the safety of planes.
Okay.
Turbulence is scary. Do you agree?
Course.
Now, it often is not a big deal. It's not often we're hitting objects or birds are getting sucked to the engine in the middle of a flight. That's more on takeoff and landing, right? Most crashes tend to occur on a takeoff or a landing. So it's at least, you're kind of close to the ground, right? And, obviously people always say things like, it's much safer in an airplane than it is to drive a car. And it's funny that because most plane crashes occur on takeoff or landing, it's when the plane is most like a car. Isn't that really interesting? Yeah. Like that almost proves the point outside of the statistics, but I will get to the statistics. According to the IATA trivia question, what does that stand for?
International Aviation Travel Association.
Super close. International Air Transport Association.
I was just pure gut.
The 5-year average of fatal plane crashes is only 1 per 5.6 million flights.
I'll take those odds.
That is safe.
That's safe.
That is so safe. When people say it's safer than traveling in a car, I'm always like, yeah, but I've seen how some idiots drive. I'm always like, I'm a good driver, right? When I saw that statistic, I was like, whew. Those are good chances.
Yeah, I ain't that good a driver.
Yeah.
No.
If someone, yeah, those are good odds.
Yeah.
Those are good odds.
If somebody pulls up in a car, it's like, hey, can I give you a ride? It's like, I'm not so sure. It's like, there's a 1 in 5 million chance we get in a car accident. I'd be like, I'll get in.
Margot, I want to kiss Margot Robbie, but there's a 1 in 5.6 million chance she says no.
Good odds.
I'll take those. Yeah, sure, Margot Robbie. Yeah, she's married, it's impolite. I'm engaged. It's impolite.
Whoever's giving out those odds, I would like to. I'll place the bet on the no. If they're paying out 1 to 5.6 mil.
So hearing that statistic, realizing that most of these crashes occur when the plane is acting as though it is a car, I do feel a little bit better. It's kind of once you land or it's once you take off or land, you're kind of okay, right?
Yeah,
it's pretty rare you're just going to plummet out of the sky.
Yeah, although that is the horrifying...
That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and there's so many. They make so many shows or movies and things about this.
Is that why I'm so scared? Yeah, see the Denzel movie and everything. I don't know what it is.
Well, and Denzel in that movie does good.
Oh, he saves the plane.
Yeah.
Well, he's an alcoholic.
He pulls a Sully despite being an alcoholic.
Beside the 0.2 BAC. Yeah. I want to end this podcast really quick with a shout out to perhaps I guess we'll say best airport we've ever used, the Burbank Airport here in Burbank, California. It's co-sponsored by Guy Fieri. Pretty much every restaurant or pickup sandwich as he calls it, is Guy Fieri sponsored.
Yeah, it used to be the Bob Hope Airport, right?
Yes,
and now it should be the Guy Fieri.
It should be the Guy Fieri Airport. There is something quaint about the Burbank Airport. It's essentially the size of a bus station. There's just kind of like one strip where you do arrivals and departures. When you're picking people up, it's incredibly easy. And you contrast it to LAX, where I remember driving. I think I drove you to LAX, and when we pulled in, I was realizing at the entrance on the map, it said we were still a full mile from where I had to drop you off. Like that is, and it was backed up completely. Like we were in a complete line. And it's so unbelievable that it's like you have another mile to go from entering the airport to dropping someone off, whereas Burbank, it's a stone's throw,
Yeah, total nightmare. And then the other thing about Burbank that I like is you still board via walking out sort of onto the concrete, and then you climb the stairs, as opposed to that sort of whatever chute that they extend.
It's what you'd put animals in as to they go to the slaughter. Right. Yes, I don't like the confined space. I'm a little claustrophobic. Right. What can I say? Yeah. I will say, having done this research, having done this investigation, I do feel a little bit better about airplane travel. I maybe got even a little itch at the wanderlust to get on a plane.
Wow.
I'll say.
Well, are there any? I was thinking about this. Are there any tips that you? What are things that you do going to the airport? I have a few things that I do.
What do? I wear comfortable clothing.
Yeah.
Easily removable things to protect freedom when they check me at TSA.
But never shorts.
Never shorts. I usually do thin, kind of airy sweatpants.
Yeah.
Shorts. Try to avoid bare skin on an airplane. Again, they're absolutely filthy.
Will you eat at the airport?
If I have time, yes. Yeah, that generally helps settle me a bit. Yeah, eating something. I don't really do booze. I know people like knock back booze on the planes or take Ambien and stuff. That is fine. I'm sure I would enjoy doing that, but that's just not something I really do. I don't want to pour booze onto anxiety so much, you know.
How are you with the TSA agents or the stewardesses? What's your
that's okay. I'm extra polite. I'm very. It's like you're going to the principal's office. I feel very cowed and nervous and whatnot.
They hold your entire.
Oh God, yeah. That's the other fear is you got the same name as a terrorist. You know, there's so many fearful disaster scenarios at the airport that I think we see from film and TV. So
and yet
polluted, I guess.
So few of them actually happen in real life.
1 in 5.6 million, they say.
There
right?
you go. Hey, buddy, you're 1 in 5.6 million.
Thank you, buddy. Hey, you're 1 out of 2 brothers, huh? But I feel a little better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Your eyes been opened to anything? Or?
Yeah, a little. Sure, of course.
Case closed.
Case closed. Orville.
Hey, thanks, Wilbur. And with that, please subscribe, comment, and leave a rating. Send questions, comments, or big idea suggestions to our business email, flynnbrospod@gmail.com. Thank you to our producer, pilot, Will Slade. And we'll see you next time on the Flynn Brothers Podcast. Take care, buddy.
No, you take care.